Panmyth, City of the Lost. Strange Shores by Tobias White. Chapter 1. Castaway. Every life has a measure of sorrow, and sometimes this is what awakens us. Stephen Tyler. As he struggled for his very life, the midnight waves crashed repeatedly over and over onto the man, threatening to drown him into the bosom of the sea's inky depths. However, these struggles were in vain when a strong undertow quickly pulled him under, dashing away any hope of success. In those final moments, when all hope seemed to be lost, he was assaulted by the flashbacks of the woman he loved and the pursuit of the monster who killed her. He fought his way back to the surface, but not from any primitive instinct to survive, but rather from a burning desire for justice and revenge. He broke the water's surface, greedily inhaling the night air, but this reprieve lasted only a mere moment as he was mercilessly sucked back down into the abyss. Once again, the man was assaulted by past images of the war that scarred him, past images of flashing sirens for a crime he did not commit, and the past images of the news headline, "The Freak Show Killer Strikes Again." Fueled by boiling rage, he thrashed upward, only to be greeted by an eldritch-smelling fog that choked its contours. Off in the distance, through this miasma, he could see the lights of a city, and so he swam. He swam for his very life. Eventually, he reached far enough into the shoreline to stand up on his own 2 feet. He stumbled to and fro, his mind feeling confused and primitive, but still, he pushed forward. Unexpectedly, he lost his footing as the shore just sank away. He then realized he could not see the city lights. He twisted this way and that, only to see that the lights were now behind him. He tried to turn around, but with skewed senses he turned left when he should have turned right, and what was up seemed to be down. He was not sure if he was suffering from battle fatigue, if someone drugged him, or if he was just exhausted from survival. But he compensated and made his way back to the shoreline. Waist deep in the briny waves, it was here in the malevolent mist where shadowy shapes of vehicular skeletons appeared before him. This strange shore was a giant graveyard filled with the flotsam and jetsam of different places and eras. His head pounded with pain, and through this pain he fell to his knees. He fell to his knees penitently. He fell to his knees humbled. And he continued to fall. He had fallen to his knees, utterly and ultimately defeated. Filled with irrational guilt, he thrashed against the sides of his head, and then against a heart scarred with overwhelming lamentation. Finally, from the depths of this heartache, he let loose a tortured and wretched moan. He had questioned his very existence. He had survived, but why did he survive? Did he even deserve to survive? After all, he was unable to save his only family, his reason for living. Suicide, however, was not in the cards, for his heart was not yet numb from the pitfalls of an indifferent and uncaring universe, as it was still filled with hate and vengeance. These raw emotions provided the proper motivation to push forward. Shakily, he rose back to his feet, and with extreme fatigue, he pushed onward. One final mission for a wayward soldier. Upon reaching the decaying hull of an oil tanker, he grasped for dear life to its rotting carcass. It was in this moment when he saw them. From the fog, one by one, the strangers emerged, until 3 of them had him surrounded. Distorted, likened to the refraction of water, their forms wavered both in size and shape. They cautiously approached him, wearing hooded cloaks and white cassocks displaying a strange red cross, their faces obscured by gas masks. The center-cloaked figure pointed her finger towards the man, and with a muffled radio twang, she said, "Take him." The others silently obeyed and slushed forward through the shin-deep water to flank the castaway. Eyes burning with white-hot rage, lust, and wild abandon, The castaway sent the left assailant flying into the water with a wicked uppercut, but in turn, to only be dropped into the water by a roundhouse from the other flanker. Before he could recover from this blow, both men restrained him by the arms. The woman slowly approached the castaway while he wildly raged against his captors. With annoyance, she said,
"We don't have time for this."
And with her left arm, that had the force of a pneumatic pile driver, she slugged him in the diaphragm, stealing his wind into unconsciousness. As the castaway came to his senses, he found himself being carried between the two men, his arms over their shoulders. The woman confidently took the squad's point. He tried to free himself, but shackles and exhaustion made escape impossible. With urgency and contemptuous annoyance, the woman said,
"We must hurry. The salvage gangs will be patrolling this area soon, and I'd rather not deal with that kind of headache."
Head still swimming with confusion, the castaway found the strength to raise his head, just in time to see a strange city emerge from the parting fog. Impossibly massive, this metropolis appeared to reach more than a mile into the sky. It was a mixture of old architecture, towering futuristic skyscapes, tiered platforms, and elevated roads. Defending the city, around its base and hundreds of feet high, were abstract shell-like barriers. Between its towers, veins of light pulsed from cars and aircraft, while industrial and electric sounds grumbled from her belly. Just before the castaway lost consciousness, the woman, in a hushed tone, said,
"What was that? Let's move. Now."
Chapter 2. An Old Friend. Of all ghosts, the ghosts of our old loves are the worst. Arthur Conan Doyle. In spasmodic delirium, the man awoke. He instantly and violently struggled against the arm and leg restraints that secured him to an old hospital bed. Besieged upon all sides, smoky enemies and past regrets flitted about, invoking unbridled grief and terror. His struggles caused a cacophony of metallic groans against his manic strength. Then, to his horror, one of the shadows wistfully took on the shape of an old friend. A friend he knew to be dead. A friend that died because of his inability to save him from himself. The man froze in terror as the phantasm sat on the edge of his bed. It patted him supportively on the thigh. He gave a sheepish, gnashed smile as smoke issued from a slit throat, and in a voice made legion, he said, "Hey, Sam. Long time no see." Flinching at his wispy touch, a confused Sam stuttered out a parched, "Hey, Jesse, what are you doing here? Aren't you dead?" Jesse smirked, finger gun pointed, and said, "Right you are, my Sammy boy. In fact, I'm your ghost of Christmas past." Jesse wiggled his fingers in the air while making ghost sounds. Ooh. Sighing, Sam rolled his eyes. Even in death, Jesse was still insufferably goofy. With a sweat-coated brow, Sam looked about and asked, "Jesse, where the hell am I?" The room was small, cold, and with walls of peeling white paint that revealed gray, damp plaster underneath. While next to his bed, a small electric heater sputtered and sparked as it struggled to heat the room. Haphazardly stacked off in the corners were cardboard boxes filled with junk and laundry carts filled with soiled rags. The walls were decorated with aging fake propaganda posters that could only have belonged to a B-rate sci-fi movie. Jesse looked about the place, snapped his suspenders against his chest, and with a phony baloney southern lawyer accent said, "Well, to be honest, my boy, I have no idea." He gave Sam a little smile and said, "But I think you'll be safe for now." Jesse then winked his eye while at the same time gave a corner smile punctuated with a side cluck of his tongue. The Smokey Demons flitted and scurried about. Some of them formed eyes, claws, and even teeth. Sam flinched and jerked about in terror as the shadows sticker-snacked at him here, there, and everywhere. His spectral friend patted him on the chest and patronizingly said, Hey, buddy. Look at me, pal." Sam snapped back to look into the empty deadlights of his friend's eyes. Pay no attention to those wisps. They'll be gone shortly, and they won't be harming you any time soon. Those empty eyes, those hollow eyes. No, they were more than that. Those eyes were filled with the void. They transfixed Sam. They gripped his heart and soul. Jesse closed his eyes, opened them again, and they returned to normal. As normal as they could be for a dead man. Inspecting the room, Jesse swiveled his head to and fro, and then said, "See, buddy? They're going away already." A strange calm took hold of Sam, and he thought, this is just a nightmare. It must be. It just has to be. Sam and Jesse's attentions turned when they heard the footsteps and muffled conversation of people coming down a hallway towards his room. Jesse whipped his head towards Sam and whispered, "Hey, buddy, I think only you can see me, so you might want to keep me under your hat, or they might think you are crazy or something. Know what I mean?" Jesse began to slowly fade away, but in the last second he materialized back, gave Sam a slap on the chest, and said with a smirk, "Oh, and whatever you do, don't scream, okay?" Sam just stared at Jesse, unblinking. With a burst, and as an Indian sand painting thrown to the wind, Jesse's essence dissipated ceremonially into the air.